And I'm sorry, I was
Way.
muted. That's a good start. Anyway, I will start again. Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Philosophy of Information, in which we take a more philosophical look at current events. My name is Andrew Meloche, and tonight I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Raynald Rouleau, who's a free thinker, retired electronic technician, and contributor of the Canadian Patriotic Movement. So, good evening, Raynald. Thank you for accepting my invitation. How are you tonight?
I'm very good. It's a pleasure to be with you. Oops.
So everything is falling apart. It is nice for the first episode in English. Yes, you are back with us for a second interview. You were with me last week when we had the first interview in French, and now we try to do the same thing in English to a little bit inform our English Canadian, I would say, citizen. Uh, if, like I said, you're a technician, you're a retired technician, but you were also part of many enterprise. Could you describe your path for English viewers who don't know you?
All right. Well, as you said, from an academic standpoint, I studied electronics. And when I came out of school, I went to Montreal because I come from the Gaspé Peninsula in a small town called Matane. And then I moved to Montreal and I worked, maybe 3 years, I believe, for Marconi in the avionic department. And but I kind of I found it a bit a little boring or repetitive. So at that moment, I had met some people that had pretty good same ideas than me, and so I left and joined a group, and we created the Party for the Commonwealth of Canada, the Parti pour la République du Canada. And I ran against Brian Mulroney. I was only 24 years old, and that was quite it was quite an experience. It was very it was fruitful for me, meaning that it got me to learn a whole lot. Because at 24 years old, I mean you're fresh in life, I would say, but to have that kind of
Green,
experience,
you're green,
yeah,
not like
green.
today.
Yeah, that's right. Not the same kind of green. No. Not the Maurice Strong kind of green. So yeah. Obviously, I didn't win. But it was a very good learning experience. I learned how the game was actually rigged, if I could say that word, because the media were totally, just to give you an example, I was the first candidate in the Manicouagan district to become candidate. I was the first, but they never talk about me. They didn't whatsoever. And but I was the first. So if you had real news, oh, here we have a candidate, but they never talk about me. But they talk about Mulroney and the others, Liberal Party or whatever, many months before. But these people were not candidate. Maybe they had announced, but they were not. Anyway, just to give you a little idea of how these kinds of thing works. So at 24 years old, it's a good learning experience. And then basically with friends, I ended up going into the United States, helping somebody running for office over there, running for Senate. And in the U.S., you need 50,000 signature of registered voters. So it's not like you actually have to be registered in the U.S. to vote. You have to be registered with a party. So this candidate was running for Democratic Party in the 1980s, and so you have to, in the whole population, first of all, you have to find out if you're a registered voter and if you're a Democrat, and then if you have to validate. So basically, you have to raise 100,000 signature to be able to actually have 50,000 valid. Anyway, so I went that help a friend like that, and years later, because of politics, I would say, my interest into politics, I became a correspondent for le journal Nouvelle Solidarité, New Solidarity in English.
A newspaper based in France.
It's a newspaper based in France that Jacques Cheminade had started up. Jacques Cheminade was part of the movement of the Lyndon LaRouche movement. And I was in Washington and as a correspondent from about, I would say, 88 to 97. So it was a very good experience also to see how the media works. The mainstream media, because Nouvelle Solidarité was like the news behind the news. It was not. It wasn't like the New York Times or La Presse or Globe and Mail, of that kind of press. Quite different.
So you were what, 9 years in Washington? So you had some experience as not only as a journalist, I would say a field journalist, but you were also making some program for community TV. I would like to ask you my first question, because after what you said, my first question will be a question that is polemic. Do you think Mark Carney is an agent of the MI6 sent by the Crown to show Canadians their real place? I would say the place of peasants.
Oh gosh, Carney's dangerous. Carney's a real dangerous person. Is way above MI6. I mean, this guy has been deployed way above MI6. Is part of the patrician basically of Prince Charles' circles. See, the structure of the empire. That's Mark Carney. This is why he was Bank of Canada and then Bank of England, and then on part of this, how you call that, this like when there is an emergency in finances, he has to go and troubleshoot that kind of. This guy is very important. So when you're dealing with banks, with central banks, especially the banks of the empire, that is not a small thing. This is big. And this guy is a serious bad person. Very, very bad person.
Yesterday, I was in the space of Sue Calendar, and I intervened, and I was telling this anecdote about Jacques Parizeau and the movement, the referendum in Quebec in 1995. And I told the small anecdote about you asking a question about Prince Philip. Can you tell us again, because yesterday people were, I think they were a little bit surprised. Just tell us what is this. You were there in Washington and you were interviewing Jacques Parizeau, who was there to promote the sovereignty of Quebec.
Yeah, I was not interviewing him. He was giving a press conference because he was doing a tour, to promote Quebec independence and that kind of thing. And so I went to the press conference. But I started basically my question by saying that, your party is quite green. It's quite pushing green agenda. And but in a very nice manner, I said that, right? You want to...
You were not pushy, yes.
No. I was very, very, very nice, very nice. Basically, playing by the game. But bringing forward the fact that the Parti Québécois it's got the green agenda, totally the green agenda, and anti-development green agenda. So I slowly basically say, okay, I said, but you know what? This is the exact same thing that Prince Philip. This is what Prince Philip wants. This is the green agenda. He said, I have a great admiration for Prince Philip. Here's a guy that wants to... I mean, this was crazy. This guy says that he wants to have independence of Quebec. And he's saying, I have a great admiration for Prince Philip. Oh, my God. My gosh. And the other journalists, obviously, they didn't write about this, the other journalists. But so in the crowd, you can hear...
So they were surprised.
Yeah, of course they were surprised to have him say something like that.
When you were asking a question, you were in Washington. When you were asking a question, were you asking a question in French or in English? I suppose it was in English.
No, I did ask in French because Parizeau, obviously, the French media, I mean, they always do both, right? When people, even when Carney goes to Washington, he goes and answer French and English question. So I did that.
He can.
Oh, yeah. So that was in French, man. I'm serious. This guy just, shoot himself in the foot for somebody that really want independence from the empire. My gosh.
Well, that's quite interesting, and later we will talk about the Alberta sovereignist movement. Maybe we'll try to do some parallel. But when we were preparing this interview, you sent me some quotes, and I have one that is quite interesting. You wrote, "News are never impartial. A news network is not a business. It's a tool of social control." So were the people interested in Canadian or Quebec politics in United States when you were in Washington? Did they know Canada or Quebec exist?
They don't exist, but they have
Do
the same.
they know today?
Well, let's put it this way. Yeah, today. But let's put it this way. General de Gaulle made Quebec on the map. That's for sure. When he says "Vive le Québec libre," he made Quebec on the map. But from the news media perspective, this guy was terrible. They didn't like de Gaulle, and they see Quebec as socialist. They see Quebec as they hate the English-speaking people. See what I'm saying? They don't know nothing aside from those who went to Quebec, that goes to Quebec from vacation. Aside from those people, the average population, they have no idea, aside from just a little bit that what's in the media. In the media always say, Quebec, a bunch of socialists, and they have
yes.
That's the way it's portrayed. But they don't. The Americans, they don't really care about Canada, aside from the cold weather that comes down. It comes from Canada. But generally, the Americans are extremely self-centered. They don't look at the world very much, right? They're self-centered. But yes. Washington is a different place, because Washington, all the embassies of the world are there. All the news media of every country is there. All the intelligence services of all the countries are there. So when you're dealing in Washington, you cannot trust no one, absolutely nobody. Because the person, even though they seem to be your friend today, tomorrow they have a dagger in your back.
Stab you in the back.
That's the way. That's the Washington way. Unfortunately,
so in Washington, in your opinion, it is a pirate land. You walk your back against the wall because you don't want to be stabbed in the back.
Trump learned it the first time, and he almost said so.
In his first term.
Yeah. Because he went there, thinking it's like New York. No. When you go to Washington, the first thing you have to have is a lawyer. But see what I'm saying? It's a funny. It's quite a different. It's an interesting place to be. Like fashion.
Yeah.
This is just a parenthesis. Fashion in Washington D.C. does not exist. It just does not exist, because you have everyone.
What do you mean fashions? Elegance?
Fashion, meaning at one point, if you have a suit,
no suit and tie,
they're gonna change color or change the model of the suits, or for women, there is no such a thing as fashion over there, because of the fact that every country is there and everybody is dressing. They're dressing differently. So for me, it was an interesting fact, because Quebec has a lot of they're very aware of fashion. Right?
They were. Today maybe that's changed, but what you're talking about fashion in Washington D.C., District of Columbia. That's why maybe Zelensky was not wearing a suit when he went to the White House. He felt casual. I'm at home.
Gosh.
Anyway, it's United States money anyway. So,
no, but one of the reasons I'm mentioning this is because I recall Bouchard. What's his name? The first name?
Lucien Bouchard.
Lucien Bouchard, right? When Lucien Bouchard was the prime minister, he went to Washington. He arrived there in a very high-class suit for Quebec standard or French standard. He arrived there with a brown kind of. He looked like a clown. This guy, you could not take that guy seriously, because in Washington, to be seriously taken, you have to have a dark suit. Absolutely, you have to have a dark suit. Blue.
There's a protocol.
Absolutely. There is no fashion aside from that one. Classic. It has to be classic. Nothing fancy, but classic. Therefore, the tie, even journalists, ties, you have the suit. It has to, there is a decorum, basically, but no fashion. Yes.
We saw it when Zelensky was there, and not only him, when Mark Carney was there too. And it always interests me the way people behave, the body language, if we can use. I have, since the Confederation 1867, and many people today, they refer to the Laurentian elite, quote unquote. We know some oligarch in Quebec, some billionaire who control the Quebec's political agenda. Like everywhere around the planet, there's always an oligarch or billionaire that is trying to influence the politics. And since the second referendum in Quebec in 1995, a certain constitutional truce has set in, not because of any so-called reconciliation between English and French Canada, but rather because, I would say, of political fatigue. Now that Alberta's sovereignist movement is gaining momentum, there's a sense of hesitation on the Quebec side. And you wrote me today a comment. You said the term Laurentian elite is a new term recently coined to separate the bad East against the good West. Bad East, quote unquote, good West, quote unquote. The idea that people want to assert their so-called sovereignty is a good thing. The real question is sovereign of what and for what? So what do you think about the sovereignist movement in Alberta today? How do you perceive it from Quebec and from somebody who has experience in politics?
I find it extremely interesting and very important. I think there is a lot of good can come out of that, could come out of that. But it has to be unified. It would have to be done in such a way of not repeating the same mistake that we did in Quebec. And the major mistake in Quebec, I'll just open a small parenthesis, is that people here, I mean, the Parti Québécois has never been for independence. They never been for independence. They actually, it was created to serve as a fly trap, I would call it that way. The thing that you have. The thing that you put in a cottage, right? All the flies are going to it. So this thing was created after Daniel Johnson's death.
Daniel Johnson, the father.
That's right, the friend of de Gaulle, and who wanted to create a real Canada, but a Canada as a republic. That was what Johnson wanted. Anyway, I'll close parentheses. Maybe later we can talk about this. But
of course we will.
My point is that le Parti Québécois was a fraud. It was a fraud. So the question is, in Alberta, obviously the empire does not want to let Alberta
anybody leave. Yeah.
Oh, of course not. And they're often they always predict things long in advance. They're professional in terms of studying population, of knowing what population is going to do. Like the fact that they were going to accept, the COVID vaccine at 80% of people, right? That kind of stuff. They know this stuff.
They know they're peasants, because in Quebec we had curfew and lockdown. We were the only place in America to have a curfew before Christmas.
That's right.
We are British.
We've been brutished.
But I think it's interesting. You wrote again. I like those quotes. I will read them because they're interesting. You wrote me. You said, "To tell you the truth, I'm just starting to learn about the Alberta movement.
Yep.
I see that there are several groups who are different ideas, and what would a sovereign West looks like. And we know that Canada is broken, that we have problem with immigration. Mass immigration is flooding in Canada and endangering the, I would say, the sovereignty, if we can call it like this, the sovereignty of Canada. You said, and I quote, "The more the merrier. It's the empire's policy." Can you explain that quote? I like it, but I would like to understand the real signification of it.
The more the merrier. It means it's for the empire standpoint. From the empire standpoint, the more different kind of people you have, the more fight you're going to have between people. Divide to better conquer. That's the game of the British. They always have done that. They're expert at doing this. So when immigrants are coming from Canada, generally they don't integrate. They keep. You go to Montreal, there is a Greek area, a Chinese area, an Italian area, a Jewish area. I don't call that integration. It's a melting pot, and that's not a one identity saying, I'm a Canadian. No. It actually,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
if I make just a small nuance with the word melting pot, Michael Jones was an American philosopher. He's using this expression to illustrate American. He's saying in a big tunnel, you put a Polish person, you put a Jewish person, you put a Ukrainian person, you put an Italian person, and at the other end, you have an American. He's talking about what is the concept of a melting pot. What you're saying in Canada, it doesn't work because
It doesn't melt.
a melting pot. Exactly.
It's a melting
It
pot,
doesn't
but
melt.
it doesn't melt. They put it in a pot, but they don't put fire underneath. No, it's a funny thing. But what I'm saying, everyone stays in their own thing, and that it's not developing an identity, right? It's like a quill. Instead of having a beautiful design of something which is all integrated, you have a quill. It's not an identity. It's a multitude of identities, and
Well, it is the multiculturalism of Pierre Trudeau,
of course,
1967.
absolutely.
So
And again,
Trudeau,
if you talk about Trudeau, you have to think British. You have to think.
British.
You have to think Fabian society. See what I'm saying? That's the kind of people. See, you have the Rhodes Scholar on one side and Fabian Society on the other side, right? The right and the left, and you have all these people. But it's still British. It's still this nonsense. I don't know how to put it. See, the English-speaking people that I met during the convoy, because I was at the
you
Ottawa,
were the Freedom Convoy.
yeah, the Freedom Convoy, which was marvelous, absolutely marvelous. But we'll come back to that. They don't know what's going on. They do not know what's going on. They don't know what. See, I had never seen as many Quebec flag and Canadian flag and people together because we were united, and people were saying they couldn't believe it because they thought that we hated the English and we ourselves thought that the English hated us. No, they realized it was a media setup. It's the media that set the damn thing up. It's like English-speaking people think that Quebec don't like English people. It's not true. We don't like the monarchy. We want a republic. We want a republic. That was the whole point. It's like Papineau. Papineau here, when they
Louis Joseph Papineau.
Louis Joseph Papineau, when he faced the British at the so-called rebellion, there was a whole bunch of English. Yeah, but there was a whole bunch of English-speaking people with him. Because
Irish, English, yes.
Yeah, because the fight was a fight to create a republic, to be free by the people, for the people. And it's not true that it was like, oh, you speak English, I hate you. No, that's what the media are saying. See what I'm saying? This is what the West has to understand. A worker, a fisherman from Nova Scotia or New Brunswick or PEI, or a potato grower in PEI, or people in the oil rig in Alberta. Gosh, they're like us. They're like us. They're the same thing. We like them. What we don't like is it's Ottawa that represent the British monarchy.
Empire, the British crown.
There is one thing that has to be understood. There is nothing being done in Canada without the Privy Council. The structure of Canada. See, I'm going to open a parenthesis here, which I find it very important. We hear a lot of English Canadian basically going after China because the Communist Party. It's the Communist Party. One party. There's only one party. I'm sorry, but in Canada, we have only one party. One party, and it's called the Privy Council. It's called the Privy Council. We have only one party, different flavor. Which party that is, they're going to say, I, whatever the name, solemnly swear allegiance to. My gosh, that's the problem. The problem is exactly there, and it's an absolutely ridiculous idea to think that this is only just a ritual because that's the way we did it and we did it. No. If you go to court, you go to court to Prince Charles. You go against Prince Charles in Canada.
Against the crown. It's always
against the crown, but absolutely. And it's not because it's only, it's been there. No. That's the real thing. It is the real thing. There is nothing that goes that the Senate. See, if the Parliament passes a law, and the Senate, which is not elected, obviously, it's appointed. I would say by the Brits, meaning it's appointed. The media say it's appointed by the Prime Minister. No. Because the Governor General has to sign on that. The representative of Prince Charles has to sign this. Therefore, if it were to be against that person, he would not sign. So therefore, they choose people. It's basically, it's like I'm giving you the choice between 5 person, choosing between those 5. Of course, yeah, you say, I have the choice. No, you don't have the choice. You chose between the 5 that I presented you. So we have a Senate which is not elected. We are not living in democracy.
We are saying this, many of us, you and many of us, and I think, many, not many, but I think some people dare to say that we do not live in democracy.
Absolutely not.
Mainstream media are pushing this narrative all the way. I have a comment here from Gordon Fiala. You can't go against the grain. There's no permission for that discussion. Never make it to Parliament. So,
I'm not sure I understand. But anyway.
Well, if you don't go with the narrative, you will never be elected.
Of course.
You will never be elected. And that brings me to a question that is in another way. Are we seeing the end of the Confederation as we know it now, based on the Charter of Rights, based on the Constitution that was brought back by Trudeau in 1980? Are we seeing it, the end of this Confederation, especially with what is happening in Alberta?
I think it's going to be, we have an opportunity. It's very difficult to know exactly where it's going to go. But the old system is being replaced. Now, the establishment, meaning the deep state or, the British octopus.
Whatever we call it.
Call it whatever you want. That thing, this system is finished. It's at the end of its rope. And they know it. So they want to put together something new. The Great Reset of Karl Schwab is an example of that. Obviously, this is what Carney is about. This is what Carney is coming to do. And but it's not something that the entire world is going about. Xi in China or Putin in Russia or people in the other, basically in the BRICS nation, they don't go with that. They don't go with this. This crap is being pushed in the British, I would say, surrounding countries. But it's not something which is all across the globe. This is not the case.
This is what I just wanted to say. This is what, for example, Russian philosopher Alexander Dugin is using the word multipolarity.
Yes,
not
absolutely.
As something that is global, but with a group of nations that have equal rights. And is it possible to achieve this today?
Absolutely.
Considering what we're seeing in Canada.
It is possible. The question is, I mean, to me, what gave me the hope is the Freedom Convoy. Meaning, it is possible to get the population to do something. It is possible. So, obviously, Carney is not a fool. He's a bad guy, but he's not a fool. And we have to take this guy extremely seriously because he looks like you're smiley person, blah blah blah. But this guy is going to be a smooth talker, but in the back is going to nail you. That's for certain. That is absolutely certain. So, but you were asking me if there is a potential for to actually create something new,
reunite,
yes,
create something.
Absolutely,
yes,
absolutely possible. But again, it's the situation that creates. How can I say it? The Freedom Convoy was something that was started.
It was a wake-up call.
Yeah, but my point is that it was started, but then it took a life of its own. Because the moment was ripe, totally. And I mean, I recall in myself, I was actually, I had tears in my eyes when I saw Tamara Lich, right? When she went to the commission to testify, and she recounted the how it happens, that the truckers would come in, blah, blah.
The energy, the solidarity of people.
Yeah, but what she says was, I couldn't believe when I heard that there was hundreds and hundreds of trucks coming from Quebec. In her head, this was...
In her head, it was not possible.
Exactly. In her head, it was like an Albertan type of thing. We're going to talk to Ottawa. We're going to nail these damn. We're going to do something. But they quickly realized that it was taking a lot of momentum. And then when she learned that hundreds of trucks were coming from Quebec, she said, "My gosh, we've been lied all along. We have been lied all along. These people are like us. They are like us." And it is exactly true. It is true. The media are running us by the nose. The media are running us by the nose and maybe other parts of our body. But my point is that the media are very powerful. And
they're very powerful.
And today we have to pay attention to something very seriously. The media is changing, meaning it's not the mainstream media now. Things are moving, so you're starting to see a lot of so-called independent people on the internet doing things. Some are not so independent. So we have to be very careful to not replace the Globe and Mail with some kind of podcast somewhere. See what I'm saying? It's important.
Like the philosophy of information. I have a comment from Sue Kenandario, which says the Freedom Convoy was punished hard because it proved unifying people was possible. It's exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, exactly.
The fact that we can unite people. When we were preparing the interview, you wrote me again something interesting. You said, "We are witnessing the birth of a real nation. It's up to us." So
absolutely.
I have a question for you in relation with Daniel Johnson and Charles de Gaulle, who was the president of France. Last week in the episode in French, we talk about the sovereignist movement in Quebec. And after the death of Daniel Johnson, he died in 1965, I think. The movement
68.
68, sorry.
September 26, 1968. Yeah.
On the Manic 5 dam.
His baby,
in north of Bécomo. The movement was recycled by René Lévesque, who left the Quebec Liberal Party. He was there at the time. And he created the Parti Québécois with the help of some public intellectual, like Pierre Bourgault from the RIN, Rassemblement pour l'Indépendance Nationale. At the time, many revolutionary movements, May 68 in France, the Vietnam protests in Washington, D.C., the Prague Spring in Czechoslovakia, etc., were shaking the old political system. Did the Parti Québécois and René Lévesque, after the death of Daniel Johnson and the election of Robert Bourassa, did the party and René Lévesque really want to make the Quebec independence?
Absolutely not. That's what I was saying earlier. It was a fraud from the start. Now, something important. There was a lot of people that actually believed that this was real. So they joined the party, obviously, because it was the only thing there was. Because after Johnson's death, the guy that replaced him was an idiot. I mean, I don't recall his name now, but it was just a nobody. So
it was Jean-Jacques Bertrand.
Ouais, Jean-Jacques Bertrand, yes, indeed. But my point is that there is a lot of people that actually had a lot of hope that the Parti Québécois was going to do something serious. And they got screwed. They totally got screwed. And my point is that when de Gaulle, this is something the English-speaking people don't know. De Gaulle was not working to separate Quebec from Canada. This was not what de Gaulle was about. De Gaulle had his people in New Brunswick, had his people in Manitoba, he had his people in Northern Ontario. My point is that you have to remember something. This was not the century, how you call that, le centenaire. But how you call that in English?
Celebration.
100 years anniversary of the creation of Canada. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of push from, but at the beginning, from this character, this liberal, Lister B. Pearson, to repatriate the Constitution. But there was also a move saying, hey, we could write our own Constitution. There is no reason why we should repatriate that damn thing. Sorry, but this is not our document. We are old enough to be able to take ourselves into our own, take our future in our own hand. So therefore, de Gaulle was not a crazy guy. So he worked with everyone that he could to try to get that going. If you look at Expo 67, I don't know, the older people will remember, there was an industrial exposition in Montreal in 1967 for the 100th anniversary of Canada, where all the head of states were coming. Everybody's got a pavilion. Every country had a pavilion. It was something enormous, and it was great. It was fantastic. So de Gaulle actually, they really wanted, I mean, again, I'm going to try to open another parenthesis, try to close it. De Gaulle was at war against the British Empire since he took office in 1958, up to his death. And he knew exactly who was doing the trouble in the world at that moment. And they tried to kill him 23 times. They didn't succeed. He outsmarted them. So the point is, he was going first of all, he built in 1961. He actually exploded his first nuclear weapon to basically saying, okay, now I'm part of the group. You have to respect me.
The select group of nuclear
That's right.
weapons.
Countries. That's right. And then he did a world tour in 61. But my point with Canada, to come back to close the parenthesis, is that de Gaulle would have liked Canadian to write its own constitution. And this is why most people believe that the last speech of de Gaulle, the last word of de Gaulle was Vive le Québec libre. This is
That
not what
that was on the balcony of Montreal with Jean Drapeau at the time.
Yeah.
And the Prime Minister, it was Daniel Johnson, yes.
It was
exactly.
Daniel Johnson. But my point is that that was not his last word. There was two other phrases. Vive le Canada français et vive la France, meaning long live to French Canada.
French Canada.
That's right. He said that. But you have to remember what French meant at one point. You have to remember what it meant. It was not a question of race or whatever. It was not only a question of language. France was extremely going. How can I put it? It was developing his industry, developing science. It was growing. Quebec was the same thing. Everything was growing. So for them, being French meant exactly that. If you were for peace, he had a phrase, right? Peace, development, and there was another one. Peace, development. I knew he had 3 words. Now
3 words.
Yeah.
But what you're referring to, Vive le Canada français, it is an ally. It was most probably, from what I see, an alliance between France and Canada, and especially Quebec, but not only, because you still have a lot of people who speak French in New Brunswick, in Manitoba. And like you said, he was maybe aware of the danger of the British Empire.
Totally. He was totally aware of that. And therefore, this is why he pushed every button that he could to get Canadian to write their own constitution. And he really did try. And I see, when he came here, it was in the 24th of July, 1967. But in the fall, in November, all the prime ministers of the provinces got together and say, okay, how about if we were to write our own constitution? We would like you to bring to the table a proposal to how we could do that. So the point is that it was up to the provinces to get their act together and take their future into their own hands. That was the whole idea. But this is sorry?
Now tell me, at this conference in September 1967, was the Prime Minister of Canada invited? Or it was only...
The first meeting that was not an official, it was like it was part of the meeting that they have often, all the prime minister. So therefore, that was only the prime minister. It was not in September. That was in November of '67. The real first meeting of the first constitutional conference was in February. Yeah, it was in February 1968. And then who was the Minister of Justice at that time? Pierre Elliott Trudeau.
It was Pierre Trudeau who was Minister of Justice at that. I didn't remember this.
Yeah.
You are mentioning something important, and I will just get this here, and I think you will recognize it if I can just find it.
Okay, I'm going to talk while you're doing this.
Well, talk, because it's important. It's important. I want to show this. Why I show this? Because the book of Daniel Johnson, égalité ou indépendance, equality or independence. I deal with you. We are sovereign, both sovereign. You are sovereign, I'm sovereign. We treat ourselves equally. Or if it is not like this, I don't deal with you. I am independent. That was the intention of Daniel Johnson at the time. Absolutely. And he wrote this book in 1967, I think. So that's what you're referring to.
66, I believe, that one, 66.
So that's what you were referring to, being equal of rights, equal of opportunity to be able to start a business, to be able, and that's what he was trying. That would have been a good example in 1967 to reconcile all the provinces, English and French, Canadian together.
And the strength that came about at that point is that there was actually a move everywhere. There was many countries, many provinces. Even Robarts, he was Prime Minister of Ontario, was kind of I would say kind of a friend with Johnson. So
he was leaning toward sovereignty, or
they had. If the Trudeau gang had not done what they did, and got rid of Johnson, of Daniel Johnson, this would have succeeded. It would have succeeded, I believe, because there was a move. I mean, everyone likes to be independent in the sense of not having of not being a serf of somebody else somewhere. Now, I can understand that some royalists would, because of religious reason, because that's their pope, that they would like the queen, and but we're not at the time of the Order of Orange. The Order of Orange today makes absolutely no sense. They're just a bunch of Freemasons, and that's it. I mean, this is not what Canada is today. That is, they still exist, but that is not what Canada represents. Not anymore. So my point is that there was this move of wanting to create a serious and a real country. And this was what de Gaulle was saying. And when he said, "Vive le Québec libre," he didn't say, he
didn't mean separation.
He didn't mean separate. He didn't mean free Canada, free Quebec from the rest of Canada. No, he meant free Quebec from the British Empire. You guys should become a country. This is what that meant. So
if we fast forward,
go ahead.
Three years after 1968, 1970, we all know the October crisis in 1970. Me, I was 10 years old. It was I was small, but
an RCMP CIA setup. But anyway,
why I say this, it's because at the time my mother left my father in October 1970, the day before the October crisis started, and we left Montreal for the country. And when I arrived in the summer house where my mother was there with my sister, we had an old TV set, and we were seeing the army in the street of Montreal. I was 10 years old. I will never forget that.
Yeah, that was
never
terrible.
Forget that. So
terrible.
We go fast forward 3 years, the October crisis, 1970, and during that period, we were seeing also what we call the quiet revolution, la révolution tranquille. The institution, the nationalization of Hydro-Quebec, the creation of the Ministry of Education, the college, the reform of the university education. What happened? Do you think that this historic event of October crisis 1970, do you think that it polarized Canada? And if it did, do you think that the Révolution tranquille, the quiet revolution, really helped Quebecers in a sense? Was it good?
Yeah, it was. I mean, there is many things in there. I'm going to try to take it one after.
Open the parenthesis.
One after the other. Was the quiet revolution a good thing? Yes, it was. But they had a tendency of throwing the baby with the bathwater, meaning that the idea of getting a certain freedom from the church was not a bad thing. Especially of the corruption the church had at that time. Because it works. See, this is, again, it always worked both ways. They corrupted the church in a way that the people would hate the church and therefore create what they wanted to do. It's like le ministère de l'Éducation du Québec, the Education Ministry of Quebec, was a battle between the Catholic Church and the Freemasons. That's what this was. It was openly known at that time that this was the game. And my point is that, yes, there was the point is that we have to understand something. There was a lot of optimism. This is something that today does not exist. we had a small little taste of optimism in Ottawa at a Freedom Convoy. But aside from that, there is no optimism nowhere. The world as a whole is falling apart. We're close to the Third World War. I mean, where is the optimism of creating a fantastic, beautiful world? At that time, it existed. There was this move. It existed in people.
There's a song in French. C'est le début d'un temps nouveau. I saw this a couple of days ago and it reminded me what it was. It's the beginning of a new time. That was the era 1968, the Vietnam, the sexual liberation. But after that, we were stuck in something. It brings me to my next question about who were those political actors? Pierre-Éliott Trudeau, René Lévesque, Robert Bourassa, and later on Brian Mulroney, who started what I call the constitutional war that lasted until 1995, the date of the second referendum. Those people, were they really what they pretended to be? Because we remember, for people who are older, we remember Nietzsche. Well, the two referendum, but after that Nietzsche, the Meech Lake Accord. After that, we had the Charlottetown Accord, and they both failed. And in 1995, with the referendum that was lost by the sovereignists in Quebec, it seems like we were asleep until today. So what happened? They were very happy with the Meech Lake Accord, and I think the English Canadians were not happy. It was like we always say a win-win deal. Now it was a loser deal.
These events have been, again, they've been not mustered. How you say it? Moussé. They've been promoted and reworked by the media. As if you talk to anybody about the constitutional conferences, they're gonna bring you Meech Lake and Charlottetown.
Meech Lake and Charlottetown. Yes.
This is the only thing they're gonna say. So they succeeded to make people forget what it was all about at the beginning. We were supposed to write our constitution. It was not the question of which place are we having in this British paper, in this British Parliament document. No, it was about writing our own. It was about writing our own constitution.
And we remember 1992 when the 9 prime minister and Pierre Trudeau signed the constitution in the back of René Lévesque. At the time, it was just after the first referendum. René Lévesque said that he was betrayed by all the prime ministers.
Again, all of this is a sit-up. See what I'm saying? Again, it's to create a divide between Quebec and the rest of Canada. So it was exactly for that purpose. And it worked.
Okay.
Sorry.
René Lévesque was from the Liberal Party.
Originally,
he was a journalist in Radio Canada. After, he was a war correspondent, and he had a very famous program on Radio Canada, Point de Mire, where he was explaining international politics. Still remember this in 1962 because we have all archive. Was he? You said earlier that he was not for independence. He was not for the independence. How come he was prime minister of a province under the Parti Québécois, whose the first article was supposed to be, because I think they removed it in 2018 with Jean-François Lisée. It was supposed to be the first article, the first amendment of the party is we make independence. Now they removed it. How come René Lévesque was there?
Let me go in the history of René Lévesque just a little bit. René Lévesque's father was a lawyer in New Carlisle.
He was from New Carlisle, yes.
That's right.
Not far from you.
Not far from where I come from, indeed. But my point is the following. This guy because his father was like a cultured person, he had a huge library. And this guy has read a whole lot. So he was an intelligent kid. He was very much intelligent person.
And was intelligent, yes.
Yeah, meaning he was an exceptional person. And at the time that he was at the University of Montreal, this was during the war, during the Second World War, a guy called Rob, who was an agent of the OWI, the Office of War Information, one of the two things that are the basically it was war propaganda. It was okay. Let me rephrase that.
Was it during the Korea War?
No. Here's the story. There was the American had something called the OWI and the OSS, the Office of War Information, which was propaganda, and the OSS, which were the one that blows the, it was the ancestor of the CIA that we know today. Okay. So my point is that at that very moment, when the war started, at this very, very moment when the war started, the British created something called the British Security Cooperation. And this with the specific purpose of getting the United States to go to war.
To go to war.
Yeah. To save the interests of the British Empire. That was the whole goal. And it was a secret organization. It was located in the Rockefeller Building at the passport office of the British government in New York City. And it was a really secret thing. And it was run by a Canadian called William Stevenson, right? And this character, these people, and it was working with Donovan. Donovan, what's his first name? I don't recall. He's the guy that was running the OSS. But when the CIA was created, it was these guys that actually trained the CIA agents and trained these people. It was the British Security Cooperation. They had in Ontario, they had a camp called Camp X, where they were training agents over there. So the CIA, since the beginning, is a British operation. It always been a British operation. So now let me close.
L'évêque.
So I have to come back to L'évêque. The OWI, which was for the propaganda, the person in New York that was in charge of the French section of the OWI was Pierre Lazareff. A media person that actually left France because he was Jewish, and he left France and he went to New York
because of the context in France.
That's right. But he was recruited in that organization, and then he ran the OWI French section. He sent an agent called Rob to the University of Montreal to try to recruit some people. And René Lévesque was recruited there. So René Lévesque, during all the war, ran the propaganda, for the British, basically. They all in the book officially they say, for the Americans. Not right.
Oh well, we know how it works. So he was what we would call today.
That's right.
Embedded journalist, somebody
that's
who goes
right.
and supposed to I would say to tell stories about what's happening, but you say that it was more propaganda.
And then, a very important thing, right? René Lévesque was there when the American entered into Dachau, the concentration camp in Dachau. It was
in 1945.
Yeah, he was there, and he saw this. He actually saw this thing. The guy lost it. It was just too. It was just too much. It's just too much. So he got a nervous breakdown. They got him a bit reconstructed. He continued to work with these people. Then he got recruited for the international section of CBC. It's called the Radio Canada International.
Radio Canada International. Yes,
that's right. He went to work with them. But this Radio Canada International, MI6, there is no difference. It's the same thing. There's just no difference. No, I'm serious. If you look at the history...
Now it will be funny. You will sound like conspiracy theorist.
No, but anyway, true. But you have to.
It's not important.
You have to know history. You have to know history. If you look at the origin of these institutions, they are British.
tell me, when you talk about René Lévesque,
but hold on. Go ahead. But I was going to continue. René Lévesque, when Mussolini was hung, he was there. He was there at that time. He was also. There was only 2 journalists from the West that interviewed Khrushchev. One of them was René Lévesque.
René Lévesque. Oh.
Yeah. My point is that this guy he himself said that when he finished the war, he said that he finished with a grade of colonel. Himself said so. So my point is that it's a high grade. I mean, colonel is kind of a high grade, right? It's one notch before general, I guess. But my point is that it's very high up. So therefore, this guy has been trained all along. So when he quit, one of the reasons that he quit Point Mir when he was working for the French section of Radio Canada.
Point Mir was the program on Radio Canada, political program explaining international policy. Yes. What we call geopolitics today.
He was the most popular person on TV.
Yes.
For Quebec, for the French speaking, right?
At the time, the population in Quebec was about 3 million. And the television was coming in houses, 1960, 1961, and he was attracting 500,000 to 600,000 viewers every show.
So the Liberal Party got him to join them, right? To fight
with Jean Lesage,
to fight l'Union Nationale.
Yes,
l'Union Nationale of Duplessis.
After that, Daniel Johnson.
That's right. Right. So my point is that it was a coup. It was a coup to bring Lévesque there. It was a coup because obviously the guy was so popular that he won. Yeah, he won the election.
I don't know if you know this story. Did you read the book Les Frères Divorcés, The Divorced Brother? I'm not sure. I have the book here. I think it's Conrad Black who wrote that. And he was talking about Robert Bourassa and René Lévesque, who were very close in the Liberal Party, with John Kirian. John Kirian was a Jewish, I would say, millionaire, and he was playing tennis with Lévesque. And when Lévesque left the Liberal Party in 1967 to create le Parti National des Québécois, he was kicked out of the party because I think he was disagreeing with the policy. Is it fake? Because I read the book of Lévesque. Attendez que je me souvienne. Just wait that I remember. It's a long book about his history, and Lévesque died in 1985. But I still remember I was young when I read this book, and for me, Lévesque was like an icon. Now it doesn't look like. Would say 40 years after, I look at it and I'm not so sure. Who was he?
When I growed up myself, when I was a kid, right? A teenager, whatever, right? We venerated Lévesque because we thought that this guy was actually trying to stick it to the establishment and that Quebec would become. We thought that as people, we were. Groomed, we were manipulated to believe that this guy wanted to do this, but it was not true. It simply was not true. We got screwed. So if we can close that parenthesis and come back to Alberta,
yes,
they have to pay attention to who their leader is going to be. They have to pay attention very closely and look at. One of the main thing is always the following: the goodness of people. What do they want to do with their independence? Do you want independence because you want more money in your pocket? Is it what you want, or do you want to have independence because you could help other countries with cheap oil or cheap oil product.
Cheap energy, yes.
Yeah, cheap energy and prosperity. And see what I'm saying? There is you have to have a vision of wanting to do good. You want to do good for other people. not for your own sake. See what I'm saying?
We have.
So you have to listen to the folks that actually are going to promote goodness. That's what I would say. That's the warning I would give to the Albertan as an experienced Quebecer who have lived through this stuff. Look at those who want to do good with their freedom. Because the freedom to do whatever you want, that's not right. The freedom it's to do good. Then you have the right to be free. If you want to do good, you have the right to be free.
We were talking, and I remember 3 weeks ago at Cerberus at the Improv, we had Catherine Kowalczyk, who was co-host with Payman Ascari and I, and we were talking about the same thing that you're talking today. The sovereignist movement in Alberta, economically, yes. Prosperity, yes, but what are the values behind? What is the project? And who are the leaders? Because if they lead, you have two choice. You have two choice, and that's why I would like to go back to Daniel Johnson. Equality or independence. The real choice could be, let's do a Canada with sovereign province, strong, solid, who can do business with each other. And if we cannot do this, we will separate, and we will still have to deal. My question would be, can a province like Alberta or Quebec, or, there was the Kosovo many years ago, it's not even recognized by the United Nations. Can a small territory become sovereign today in our multipolar world? Can without having what I would call a big brother, somebody who will protect them, protector. Is it possible?
Listen, freedom is something that you exercise. It's not something that you ask for. You cannot ask, like a slave, they could ask their slave owner, can I be free? It doesn't work that way. Just get out of there. See what I'm saying? The point is that if you want to be free, if you want to be able to develop and do and go on your own ways, you have to be protected. You have to be able to defend yourself. So you have to have either power, all right, or allies, and therefore that's time.
That's a very good observation.
And this is, I always say that to those here in Quebec who say, we should get. Quebec is a rich province. We could get people that go in the Cellar and Seaway and get them to pay. Or how you're going to do that? How are you going to do that? They're just going to say no. And what are you going to do? You're going to send what? You're going to send the SQ after them? See what I'm saying? You have to be able to defend yourself. It's one of the reasons why it went so far in 1968, 67, 68 with De Gaulle and Johnson. It's because De Gaulle was there. Because De Gaulle represented a strength that would have backed Quebec or Canada. If Canada would have decided to go Republican and the British didn't like it, De Gaulle would have help.
Well, what you're saying, if we go back in 1968, you mean that at the time, there was also maybe an old conflict between British and French because of the Nouvelle France, the New France, 1759. France was achieving the nuclear weapon. They were in the big club. They had nuclear energy. They were developed. So they were proposing an alliance with Canada. Today, in 2025, now I fast forward because I have another question that popped in my head. We saw 3 weeks or 1 month ago, we saw Mark Carney go to Europe to meet Ursula von der Leyen, to shake hands with her and say, we will support you. We will have trade agreement, and we will also have an alliance, and maybe we will be part of the European Union. What is happening? What does he, is he, okay, we were talking about maybe he's above the MI6, but he's still, he's still trying to break the alliance, or the I would say the natural contract that we have with United States, our biggest neighbor.
That's for sure. He's going.
Do you think he will succeed?
His plan is to replace the United States.
Yes.
That's and screw the United States. Basically, they would. He's going to do everything that he can to work with the Democrats, to work with the deep states. See what I'm saying? Trump has a serious problem. He's got many problems, obviously, but one of the problems he has, people in the Senate, they're old. I mean, let's put it this way. I'm going to try to open a parenthesis. Society, the society is always controlled by groups, either church group, Mason groups, chivalry orders, all the occult things in the background. This is how society is organized. And this is where people have their allegiance. Therefore, the Senate, Trump does not run the Senate. And the Senate in the United States is extremely important. So he has to deal. He does not
run it, but the Republican are in majority, but he does not run it.
Yeah, but, you know, again, the Republican is a mixed bag of these people. See, one error that we make when we look at the United States is we think it is monolithic. It is not. It's a corporatist state these days. It's a bunch of people. It's like a group. It's not a one guy runs everything. That doesn't work that way in the U.S. Anyway, I want to close a parenthesis. So where was I?
Well, we were talking about Daniel Johnson, equality and independence, and the sovereignist movement. What you were referring to when you say the United States is not a monolithic society, and it is what I would call a corporatocracy.
Yeah.
Is it the same thing in Canada?
Yeah, but Canada's got something more. We're British. We're a monarchy. We're not, we've never been separated from monarchy. Therefore, we're not run by the people. The Privy Council, I cannot be a member of Privy Council. It's a one-party thing, and you cannot get into this thing. So my point is that it's definitely not the case that we have to change that structure. There is no way we can actually change things from the inside, because it's rigged from the start. Yes, we can use it as a platform. We can use it as a flank. We can create a party. We can try to get. So I'm saying we can do all of these things, but the structure itself is corrupted totally. So my point is that the hope that we have is to have people similar to Daniel Smith. And I say similar in the sense it's meaning somebody that's got guts, that can say, obviously,
that will stand up.
Stand up. Obviously, she stands up because she's backed by big oil and whatever. But that's okay. That's fine. It's all right. She's doing a certain thing which is good compared to all the others we got, right? Compared to Legault or Ford.
Well, of course you cannot compare them, but
but that's my point. That's exactly my point.
Comment from Canuck Saram. He says the Crown and their European allies need Canada's oil reserve and rare earth minerals, and of course arable land and freshwater resources. A split is happening in the Anglo-American alliance. What do you think about this?
It is true. I mean, this is what the people's I call it the Trump gang, because Trump he's not running the show as if he's the mastermind. This is not the case, right? He's got a whole bunch of folks around him, and this group is actually trying to separate the British institutions from the American institution. This is why he axed the USAID. I mean,
Yes.
I knew, this dossier of the USAID, USAID, right? It was such an horrible organization, obviously run by MI6. Obviously run by MI6.
Not even the CIA.
Oh, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Yes, it was. See, the Five Eyes. We have to people.
I wanted to refer to that because what you were talking earlier, the OW,
the BSC, the BSC has set up these organizations, and they since after the war. The British have been run the intelligence of Australia, the intelligence of Canada. It's the same thing. So the Five Eyes is not like just we help each other. No. The British run these things.
Yes, okay, I understand.
People don't. I'm sure a lot of folks would say, "Well, this guy's conspiracy. This guy's crazy."
It's not important.
But my point is that you have to look at history. You have to look at history. That's extremely important. And therefore, the question of Carney, right? Carney is there exactly to destroy, to fight this group, to throw a monkey wrench into what Trump's gang is trying to do. That's my view.
Okay. And it is interesting because I have a
and he's going to do everything that he can, even say, carbon tax, okay, forget it. See what I'm saying? Even go against its own propaganda so that he can win some cards, he can win some play with Trump. So he's way smarter than Trump. Smarter. He's a bad guy, but he's way smarter than Trump.
I don't have the same conception of intelligence, but me, I'm a philosopher and a poet. So I have a comment here, Canuck Saram. He says the Americans are pursuing a Western Hemisphere model. Now that the global trade is too fragile, keep your eyes and ears open for global cooling. Connect to the Maunder minimum. I think he is referring to climate behavior. I would have a question toward an alliance, an American alliance. Timothy Knight, one of my colleagues with Payman Askari, he always talk about the alliance between Canada and United States and let's say Mexico, to have a great alliance that would make that will be part of a multipolar world. China, Iran, Russia, maybe India, the BRICS, but not necessarily the BRICS. And you would have Europe, but Europe today is deindustrialized, so it's starting to be very complicated in Europe. And you would have America. What do you think of this great alliance? And like you said, Mark Carney is not here to do this, so he will fight Trump until the midterm in 2 years or 1 year and a half now. What do you think of this? This strategy, it's not a strategy that will help Canadian.
I think this is what Trump is trying to do. I think this is what Trump tries to do, to get greater America to become America. His whole idea of 51 state, the Canada becomes 51 state, is part of that. Obviously, Canada is important because of the North. The fact that Northern Passage,
the Arctic, yes,
and
the Arctic.
All the resources. Canada is so filled with resources; it's insane. We have drinking water. We have everything. We just basically have everything. We could be the greatest country in the world if we wanted to. But I would like to, if we could go back to the spirit that we had when we created the Avro Arrow, right? This idea that we're able to do great things. We're able to do great things when we get together, and we are able to do this stuff. And this was so dangerous that they just destroy everything overnight, right? Because it was the establishment did not, the establishment meaning the arrangement between the U.S. and Britain did not allow that to happen.
Can we because we remember the Boston Tea Party, the creation of the United States, the writing of the Constitution by the founding fathers. Could we say that in Canada we were facing what we would call the Boston Tea Party or the Ottawa Tea Party 2.0? Is it possible? Because what I see, what we are witnessing now is a double misunderstanding between English Canadian and French Canadian. When I say this, I'm not excluding immigrants, but we have two official language in Canada, which is English and French. So within this misunderstanding, how can we reunite Canadians to fight, not necessarily against the British Crown, but to fight for values like freedom of speech? We saw last week what happened with this Christian singer everywhere in Canada. It is preposterous. It is not possible to see something like this. Can we unite over around some core values, and what would be those values?
Wow. Yes, I'm sure it is something which is possible, and I believe the broadcast like we're doing will help to do something like that, meaning that we have to get people ready that when an opportunity comes about, that people are actually standing up and doing the right thing. Yes, we have to create a vision, right? Often enough, we're looking at the past saying, oh, we should do this like they did, but those who did the thing for the first time, they had to imagine it. Like yes. Creating the United States. I mean, Benjamin Franklin did not look at Rome. I don't think he looked at Rome saying, okay, we should do a republic. He created something fantastic, because at the outset, at the beginning, the idea of the U.S. was a good idea. Now, it got corrupted real fast, and it's been a battle since the inception of the U.S. It's been a total battle in between the pro-British and the real nationalists. And where they got them is on economics. There is something called the American system of political economy, of Matthew Carey, Henry Carey, Alexander Hamilton. This was what created the United States. It was a vision which was totally against Adam Smith. Totally.
Against that, yes, of course.
Absolutely.
That's very important what you're mentioning.
My point is that, Maxime Bernier, I like Maxime Bernier, but on economics, he doesn't know economics. The guy looks at Van Hayek and von Mises. I mean, libertarianism in economics does not work. That's British.
Well, you say Maxime Bernier doesn't know economics, but he's an economist.
That's my point.
So, but you're referring
That's
to
my
Adam
point.
Smith. You know, Adam Smith, the invisible hand of the market. The
Et
market
voilà.
will regulate itself. We know it doesn't work.
Right.
This is interesting what you're mentioning. And toward you were referring to what is possible. You wrote me today a comment. You said, yes, it's possible. The trucker convoy showed that it was possible. This is why the empire was so in panic. If we go back in 2022 with the Emergency Act. So you really think that we shook the pillar of the temple?
Totally, absolutely. And this is exactly what took place also in 1970. What Johnson and De Gaulle did, and all the others around that was pushing for creating a republic with Canada, that was a casus belli for the British Empire. And this is why they created the October crisis. I mean, the CIA, the RCMP were totally, it was organized to destroy and scrap the entire idea of this republic that they had put together. And then they
Well,
put the false narrative of René Lévesque and blah, 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 blah. My point is that it's something similar. It could have, how can I say it? A great moment faces small people. This is what Friedrich Schiller said about the French Revolution. A
yes.
great moment faced a little people.
Meets little people, yes. Tell me, now that I listen to you, I'm starting to be a little bit depressed, because if you say that
No.
that there was a great moment in 1968, now there was another great moment in 2022. Damn, will we have to wait another 50 years to see another?
No, the point, listen, one thing which is fantastic, I do not know of no one that was in, what did they say? Mr. Royal, the crown first. Yeah, I cannot take the time to read it. But what I'm saying is that everyone that was at the convoy, at the Freedom Convoy, everyone that was there, they absolutely loved it. I mean, those who participated in it was so beautiful, smile all over the place. It was like a liberation. It was freedom. It was a really expression of freedom. And therefore, this spirit is possible again. And it will happen probably the next time they try to do something nasty against us again. Though many of those people who were there are going to stand up. The only problem that there is that now everybody is been kind of identified, but I don't think that's really an issue. If we're smart enough, we're going to be able to do something serious. And
You sure?
We're gonna attach their arm in their back.
My colleague Payment Ascari, who's watching the show tonight, so hi Payment, is always referring to it is another, exactly like you said, it is rigged. They did it with the COVID mandate, and then they came back and they did elbows up. But why you would change a recipe if it is working? It is working. Why they would change it? The Liberals are in power. They're in minority. There's no budget. Sue Ellen-Dyer, she's publishing every day. Mark Carney, where's the budget? But it is working. How do we get out of that?
One thing we have to really understand something. Every single great things that have been done in the past have been done with a handful of people.
Yes.
It is not true. It is absolutely not true that we need millions of people. Yes, of course, the millions have to do something, but the first thing you need is leaders that are good-hearted, knowledgeable, with a whole bunch of balls. I mean, my point is that if you look at what took place in history, every time, it's always a handful of folks that have changed the world. So therefore, we're still able to do it. I'm sure we are able to do this. But we have to look at ourselves as becoming one of those leaders. It's necessary.
Exactly. I have a question for you, because you have experience in running in a general election in 1984. Can you describe your experience against Brian Mulroney, who was after that one of the greatest quote unquote Prime Minister of Canada? And is it possible to resuscitate what I would call the Republican movement? You were talking earlier about the Parti pour la République du Canada. Is it possible to inspire ourselves? And what was your experience against Brian Mulroney?
Well, let's put it this way. This guy was so little. I mean, meaning that he was micromanaged all the time. I did seen him a few times in live, right? And not that in debate, because he never wanted to debate, even though we ask, obviously, he doesn't want to debate me. But my point is that he's always micromanaged. The guy is not, he was not it was like Trudeau, the kid, right? The last one we got, right?
Justin was. I hope it will be the last one.
No, my point is that Justin was a nobody, right? Justin was absolutely a nobody. This guy was just a cute face you put there to be able to get elected, and that's it. He's got no substance, right? You had the same thing with Kamala Harris or Biden. My point is that Mulroney was the same kind of guy. He was not a profound person. Like if you look at Pierre Elliott Trudeau, even though he was an absolutely evil person, but he was smart. This guy was smart. A devil is not a.
The devil is smart.
Yeah, smart. But if we are on the right side ourselves, we're able to beat them. We are able to beat them. So I do believe it's possible to create a real serious Republican movement again. I'm sure it is possible.
I think it is you, or I think we talked about it last week in French. I think it is you or Mathieu Herret, you referred to 3 conditions for to be able to have I would say revolutionary movement, but not necessarily a revolution. An elite that is conscious or aware of its duty, a population that is educated, and a vision. A vision
the will
of the
future,
will
to do good. Yeah, the will to do good. I mean, why do we want to be free in Canada? Why? It's not so that we can just go and party, and it's not because we can have 3 houses. And see what I'm saying? We have to have a vision. We really have to have a vision to actually. And look, I'll take the example of it's a stupid example, but I mean, Americans are shallow. I mean, as a whole, it's horrible to say this, but Americans generally are shallow,
quote unquote. Okay.
Therefore, you have to speak like Trump speak to them. Make America great again. Yay! See what I'm saying? My point is that he did inspire people. He did succeed to have a vision of America. We're going to do this. Well, we're the greatest.
The MAGA movement.
Yeah, my point is that
using the acronym MAGA.
My point is that we're able to do it in the right way. We can just say this for Canadian. It's not enough, obviously, because Canadians are they're less shallow, a little bit less shallow. But we have to get them out of their cell phone and out of their
out of their zone of comfort. But what you're mentioning is important. There's a lot, English Canadian. They always say Canadians are kind. They don't know French Canadian, of course. No, this is a joke. Canadians are kind. They're rational. I don't see a lot of rational people today when we have conversation, and because we are in I would say, a very difficult position, difficult era. Do you see? I asked you the same question last week in French. Do you see any political leader, whatever, provincial, federal, or a communicator, or somebody that could inspire people to some leaders in the political class? Do you see any? We were referring to Danielle Smith, but not only her. Do you see somebody that would have those qualities that you mentioned before?
Unfortunately, at this moment, I do not see a person that has all what is required. Meaning, I see people who are knowledgeable, but they lack guts. I see people who are who have guts, but they lack knowledge. There is people who have guts and knowledge, but their intentions are not so pure. No. See what I'm saying? The point is that you have to have these 3 things to be able to have a serious leader that will be able to do something. Meaning competence, goodness, and guts. Because you have to be able to go and face the music. that's necessary. And situations.
The opportunity, the event that.
Wait, that's the event that create these people, because
yes,
and this is what has happened at the convoy. I mean, a lot of folks went together. I mean, we had a whole bunch in this thing, right? If you talk to I don't know, to Tamara or even Steve Lartis from the Quebec side of things, my point is that these people just became leader, meaning that they didn't plan.
The event created
that. They say, my gosh, I got to do something. And people, everybody did something at their own level to get the whole thing together. So it is possible. It is definitely possible.
You see, we have a CP Pop. She says, yes, I nominate Sue Kellen-Dyer. Sue Kellen-Dyer, yes.
I don't know her good enough, so I don't know.
Well,
tell me about her.
She's having spaces with Jamie, Two Chicks in Politics. She's having space 2 times per week. She's active. She's a very devoted and dedicated woman from Newfoundland. I would just hope that she will have a high-speed connection soon, because she always has problem with space. but she's very, very. I would say she's very good. She has this sense of I would say, not only Canadian politics. I would say she has a sense of international geopolitics, and this is very interesting to follow her ideas, how she's trying to inspire people. And yes, Mr. Ascari says yes, to fix her Wi-Fi first. Then I would vote for her. Yes, I do agree with you. Are we? You were talking about the Freedom Convoy, and are Canadians aware of the current political situation to write our Constitution? Do you think it is possible today to unite some Canadian from coast to coast, Anne-Marie, Ouske Anne-Marie, and to ask them to sit down, to inspire themselves, let's say from the American Constitution? You were talking about Lyndon LaRouche. He wrote a constitution. You were talking about Jacques Cheminade, who is a French intellectual. How can we inspire Canadians to sit down? My colleague, Payman Ascari, was proposing to write a constitution a couple of weeks ago. He started something very interesting. A lot of people have ideas. You think it is possible to unite those people, not behind a political party or a banner, but a vision, an idea, and a will to write something that would appeal to Canadians? Is it possible today, or do we still have to wait?
I think we have to wait. We can easily start right now to think about it. Obviously, the U.S. Constitution is not a bad one. I mean, as a model, it's not a bad thing. Johnson was saying we should inspire ourselves to their model because it works pretty good.
Yes.
But again, if you have a republic, you have to have Republicans with a small r in it, meaning citizens have a role. No, but citizens have a role in a republic. You cannot just be watching TV. You have to be an active person.
You have to get involved.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Tim is always referring to grassroots movement,
sure.
Town hall, being there all the time, talking politics all the time, acting politics.
Absolutely.
There's a comment from Kanuk Saram. He says, Andre, writing that constitution won't matter one little bit until we exit the filthy touch of the crown.
Yeah. It has to be. All of this has to be done at the same time. It's like.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Simultaneously.
Yes, because here's the thing. The day, I mean, some people are already convinced we need a new constitution. That's obvious. But it's obvious for those who have actually looked how the Canadian Constitution is made today, that everything goes to the Privy Council. The Privy Council runs the show, and they have they can do it. I mean, let's put it this way: les plaines d'Abraham, right, in Quebec City, right, where the battle between Wolfe and Montcalm was done. Prince Charles, King Charles tomorrow could just go there and say, "I'm building a castle." How? You have nothing to. He's got the right. My point. From the law,
it's his land. It's his land.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Worse than that, and that one is extremely important, and it is a shocking thing. Canadian laws do not apply to the royal family, not only the monarch, the royal family,
all the descendant and all the family.
What does that mean? Do you think? I'll tell you what it means. Pedophilia. Drugs, all the other
whatever they can do, they are.
My point is that and they are not subject to the RCMP cannot do anything. The SQ. I mean, here's the funny thing. I would add something, but no, I won't. No, skip it. I'll skip it.
But there's something that you're mentioning, and I was, some people were talking about what happened during the COVID mandate. Many politicians lied. They lied. Now we have proof, and some people, they say we should prosecute them. We should prosecute the government. I disagree with this for one reason, because it's those individuals who created who committed those crimes. I always refer to Walkerton 2007, when there was E. coli bacteria in the water system, and the man was condemned to 7 years in jail. I think he didn't do 7 years. The responsible of the water system. It is not. I would not want taxpayer to use tax money to prosecute a government. It's like you and then you will ask taxpayer to to condemn those people, or indemnization is okay, but if we use this stratagem, we play the game of the king. It seems that we cannot go out. I think it is Canuck Saram who said it about we are serf and we have to get out of the monarchy first. I think we can do things simultaneously, but like you mentioned before, we need I would say enlightened elite, and this is not what is happening now.
We must find inspiring leaders. We must find those. They exist. We must find inspiring leaders. People who there are some people that you would listen to them for hours and hours and hours, because it's like they irradiate goodness and joy and
yes.
and peace in their own heart, right?
Yes.
Some people are like this, and it's so appeasing to see that. But that's what a leader has to have. It's necessary, even though how can I put it? It's not enough to be competent, knowledgeable. These two things
you need something from the heart. Yes,
you need something else. You need something else.
There's another comment, and this is, I think it's important. Please don't mistake the royal family of the United Kingdom for the crown. This is part of the illusion. What do you think?
I know what he's saying.
The difference between, the king does to pledge allegiance to the crown. When he wears the crown, he accepts the power of the kingdom. So I think he's right.
I understand. I understand what is being said there, and it is true that even if you change monarch, it won't change much.
It is not. It is not the character.
It's the structure. The structure is absolutely. It's like something that was not really known, that was running the show. Something called crown agents. They got caught in 1970s in drugs and all sorts of things, but they were the money administrators of the empire. For example, they were running the salaries of not the veterans, but of the army people during the war, right? For example, they were administrators like this. Or in Afghanistan, when it's time, or Iraq, the money if you have, see what I'm saying? They provided infrastructure. They run ports. They run a whole bunch of things. Now they got dismantled. They went belly up recently because it wasn't actually organization. But my point is that for hundreds of years, that thing was running the show of the Foreign Office for the British Empire.
This expression is very important. The Foreign Office. There was one comment today about hubris. It was on the show of Judge Napolitano. He asked the question to his guest. He said, "Hubris, what is exploding? He said, is it the American foreign policy? The Great Britain, they do not want to have people who are equal as them. They do not. The crown. I put this, quote unquote, the crown, the structure of the system. And I think I don't know how we will get out of this, but I have the feeling that we will have to do some more interview like this because first of all, I learned a lot of things when I listen to you, and I appreciate a lot what you're explaining to us in terms of, I would say, modern politics, and especially trying to, what I say, reconcile not necessarily just French and English, but all Canadians, if it is possible. So.
Yeah, it is.
1 hour and 40 minutes, 47 minutes. Do you have any last comment for our viewers? English Canadian, most probably, because there's not a lot of Quebecers who speak English.
Be active. And there was a guy that was saying, be active or be radioactive. Meaning, if you don't take care of politics going to take care of you, and therefore. You have to get active, do something. Even if at the local level, just go to the city council, do something. I mean, a podcast, intervene in podcast. I mean, start small, start at your level, but do something.
That's what we try to do.
Yes. Yeah, that's the whole point.
Yes. Anyway, thanks a lot, Raynald, for the second interview. At least we can try to reconcile French and English Canadian through dialogue and debates without asking the permission from the crowd. Still today. So stay with me after the show. We can have a small discussion about it. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, please feel free to share it. And until the next episode of the Philosophy of Information, I wish you a very pleasant evening. Thank you, Raynald, and have a good night.
It's a pleasure. Thanks.